But obviously during World War II, it wasn't safe for Jewish people to live in Germany, so my great-grandparents had to escape Germany, and that's how they moved to Romania. So this is how it looks like. It looks amazing. Oh my goodness. Welcome back. Today we are making Ciorba De Perisoare, which is a Romanian meatball soup. I don't know if you guys know, but my parents are actually from Romania. I was born in Germany, but I grew up eating this soup all the time. My mom would always make this for us, so I'm super excited to just tap into my culture. So I do have my recipe book here, which is where we keep all of our recipes. This recipe has been actually handed down from generation to generation, so I'm super excited to share this with you guys. I don't know if you guys have ever tried anything Romanian, but I feel like just cooking things from other cultures is super cool. You guys should definitely try to make this at home as well. That's why I'm going to share the recipe with you guys. It is super easy to make, and let's just jump into it. Alright, so for the perisoare, which are the meatballs, we need 1 pound of ground beef. We need 1 pound of ground pork. We need 1 egg. We need a bunch of dill. We need salt, pepper, and paprika powder. And we need some arborio rice. Now for the actual soup base, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some carrots. We need around 4 carrots finely chopped and 1 carrot finely shredded. Then we need 2 red bell peppers, about 1.5 medium yellow onions. Then, I don't know if you guys know what this is, but this is a celery root. You guys can find this usually at Whole Foods. That's where we got this from. But let me go closer and show you this is how it looks like. Alright, let's get to chopping. Alright, so the onions, celery root, bell peppers, and carrots, I'm gonna put them all in the same bowl because they're gonna go into the big pot with some oil, so they're gonna all be mixed up anyways. Alright, then we start with the onion. I'm just gonna finely chop them. You can do whatever you want with the onion. You can cut them in smaller sizes, you can cut them in larger sizes, but Jordan and I usually like them a little finely chopped. Alright, so now I'm going to just cut them very, very finely. Alright, so while I chop these onions, I feel like I want to tell you guys a little bit more about my history and where I came from. So many of you guys know that I am from Germany, but my parents, they are from Romania. My parents met really, really young, and they moved to Germany when they were 18, or when my mom was 18 and my dad was 20 something. But my great grandparents from my dad's side, they were actually German Jews, and they used to live in Germany. But obviously during World War II, it wasn't safe for Jewish people to live in Germany, so my great-grandparents had to escape Germany, and that's how they moved to Romania. I know it's crazy to think about, especially thinking that that's part of like my culture or my family history. Alright, so I already chopped 1 onion. I still have to chop the other half. But yeah, I didn't know about the history of my family until just like recently that my dad told me about it. I was like, what? Obviously that's like, you know, a crazy part of history, and I'm just so glad that they were able to escape and find refuge in Romania. And that's why I love making, you know, Romanian food. It just reminds me of my culture, it just reminds me of home. My mom would always make this soup for us, and obviously the way she makes it is so much different, it's so much better. And I can only try to get close to like the way she cooks. Alright, so the onions are done. I'm gonna start cutting the bell peppers next. This soup is literally the version of a chicken noodle soup for me. I know a lot of Americans love eating chicken noodle soup, and anytime I would be sick, I would just ask my mom to make this soup for us. So now I'm just going to cut them into cubes, and then I'll just add them to the pot. Alright, so I chopped the bell peppers, and now I'm going to chop the carrots. Obviously you gotta peel them first before you chop them. Just the other day, actually, it was the first time that I was making this soup. I usually get a little, not scared, but intimidated to make Romanian food. I don't know why. I think it's just because I know the way my mom makes it is very special, and I don't want to mess it up. But just last time I was like, you know what, I should try it out, why not? And Jordan also has never tried Ciorba De Perisoare before, so I was super excited to make it. So, you know, I just asked my mom for the recipe and she was obviously super excited to give it to me. And it actually turned out really good. I was really proud of myself. I just followed step by step what my mom told me to do. But so that's why if I can do this recipe, you can do it too. And then I usually like to take the smallest carrot and set it to the side, but I'm gonna chop the other 4 carrots right now. I have to be careful when I cut and look into the camera because I feel like if I'm not careful enough, I'm gonna chop off my fingers. Okay, I'm all done with chopping the carrots. But now I need to take this carrot right here and I'm going to use this option. I don't even know what option this is, but it makes it really, really fine. So all you have to do is just go ahead and just shred it really, really tiny. All right, now that it's very, very finely shredded, I'm just going to add this to the mixture. All right, so now I'm going to be peeling and chopping this celery root. You don't need that much. I know that this is a very big one, so I kind of just like to take the head off of this. And then you literally just peel it as if it's a potato or a carrot. This gives this soup a very, very nice flavor. I know that a lot of Americans probably don't use this, but it's very worth trying. All right, so now that it's peeled, I'm just going to chop this into small pieces as well. All right, so now that I cut everything small, it's time to put everything together. So next you're gonna use some olive oil. You will be heating this up in this bowl first. So you'll just add a little bit to coat everything on the bottom. Don't add too much olive oil, just add enough so that way the vegetables can get soft. And I'm just waiting for the pot to get hot a bit. I know that this is a very large pot for just Jordan and I, but we usually eat this for 2 days and we also like to give some to our neighbors. All right, so now that this is hot, I'm going to add all of the vegetables inside. And then just make sure to start stirring immediately so it doesn't get stuck. All right, so this is what it looks like. Just let it cook for a bit so all the vegetables can turn soft. All right, so now that our vegetables are soft, we're going to add the water. And we probably need 2 of these. So next we're going to use this Vegeta seasoning to season the soup. I don't know if I told you guys about this in the beginning, but you can find this in any international grocery store. So you're just going to pour some in so it can be seasoned. And then you're going to add some salt and pepper as well. So next is some pepper and some salt. So we're going to actually taste this later to make sure it has enough seasoning. This is just for right now, but once we add the meatballs and everything, it will change the flavor, so I'm not going to add too much right now. All right, so now that we are waiting for the soup to boil, we are going to make the meatballs. All right, so for the meatballs, we're going to have 1 pound of ground pork and 1 pound of ground beef. All right, so now we're going to be adding 1 egg. We are also going to be adding dill. I already finely chopped this. About this much. You can add as much or as little as you want, but I know it gives it a very nice flavoring. Just make sure to save some of the dill so that we can add this to the soup once everything's ready. All right, this is very important. You cannot just use any rice. You need to use this arborio rice. In Germany, we have milk rice, but you guys don't really have that in America, so this is what comes closest to it. So make sure you use this rice if you use this recipe. And you're gonna be adding around half a cup of that. All right, once you add the rice, you're also going to be adding Vegeta. Also going to be adding some pepper. And then you're going to add some smoked paprika as well. And last but not least, we're going to be adding some salt. So now that everything is added comes the fun part. Now we can mix this with our hands and make the meatballs. All right, so make sure your hands are clean before this step, but now you're just going to mush everything around. Just make sure that you mix your meat very thoroughly. All right, so now that the meat is mixed, we're going to make the meatballs. For the meatballs, you're just going to be taking around this much in your palm and just mixing it around like this. It's very easy. And you can choose the sizing. We usually like to make this size. And then you just place them on a plate until we're ready to add them to the soup. All right, so now the meatballs are done and we're going to add them into the soup until they're cooked. Alright, so as you can see, the soup is boiling, so now we are going to add the meatballs. So we are just going to add them one by one. You know that they're done once they kind of float out, but also you need to taste them from time to time to make sure that the rice inside is fully cooked. That's how you know the soup is done. Alright, like I said, because the soup is boiling, we are going to add these one by one. So now we're just waiting for them to be fully cooked, and then the soup is almost done. There's one last step. Once the meatballs are fully cooked, we're going to take some sour cream actually. I forgot to add that in the beginning. Take some sour cream in a different bowl. You add some of the hot water and you kind of mix it and add it to the soup at the end. You will also add some egg yolk and do the exact same thing. Alright, so once these kind of float, and you kind of have to cut into one and try to see if the rice is fully cooked. But once the rice is fully cooked inside of the meatballs, we can go to the last step. And also I forgot to mention, it's important that you kind of slowly simmer this. I simmered this for about 30 more minutes. Alright, so this is the last step. You need exactly 3 eggs and some sour cream. You're going to take a bowl about this size, but you can only put the egg yolk in here. But first you're just going to separate the egg yolk from the egg white. And I know I made a really big pot. If you just want to make this for yourself or for your family, if your family is a little smaller, or you want to make this for a couple of days, just downsize on all the ingredients. So once you added the egg yolk, you're just going to whisk it. Once you have whisked your egg yolks, you're going to add about 1 cup to 2 cups of sour cream. Alright, so the sour cream is honestly the most important part of this recipe. I don't know why I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but Romanians love sour cream, and so this is very important. We're just going to add the sour cream, about that much, about a cup and a half. But you're going to add around this much and then just whisk it together. Right, so it's going to look like this. And now you're going to take some of the liquid of the soup and you're going to add it into this mixture one by one, little by little. See how I only put a little? And then you're going to whisk it around. It's important that this mixture is hot like the soup. So you whisk it around like this, and then you just add more until this liquid is really hot. Alright, so now the liquid is as hot as the soup. We're going to set the soup to the side first to kind of set for maybe 2 minutes. And then we're going to be adding this, but don't turn on the heat anymore once you add this. So you just take this off the heat and let it cool for a bit. Alright, so now it's time to add this liquid to our soup very slowly. And then you just give it a little stir. And this is how the soup is supposed to look like. And now it's time to just add salt, pepper, vegeta, just until you have the perfect taste. I'm going to be adding a little bit more vegeta, a little bit more pepper, and a little bit more salt. And then you just mix this around. And now it's time to taste it to see if it has enough seasoning. Perfect. All right, the last step now is just adding your dill to the soup. And then you just give it one last mix. And the Ciorba De Perisoare is officially finished. So this is how it looks like. It looks amazing. It still has the bell peppers, the carrots, the celery root, and obviously the meatballs in it. So I'm gonna take a little bite to see how this tastes. Oh my goodness. This is so good, guys. I wish you can try this. It's an explosion of flavors. I don't know, it just tastes like home. It tastes like Romania. Make sure to try it at home and try cooking this at home because it's delicious. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video and letting me share some of my culture with you guys. And please let me know if you try this at home. I really want to know how it turns out. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.